The mysterious world before the flood. The forbidden subject. Those who control the past, control the future. Those who control the present, control the past. What if everything you know about human history is just a distorted version of the facts? What if there was a lost chapter, a world before the flood, where colossal beings walked among men, where science and spirituality were intertwined in ways we refuse to accept today? What happened to that era? Why are all that remain just scattered fragments hidden within forbidden legends and erased texts from official history? There is something they don't want you to discover. And today, we're opening that door. The Bible mentions a time when the sons of the gods descended to earth and took the daughters of men as their own. But who were these beings? Just metaphors? Or a literal reference to a hybrid race possessing knowledge that humanity was never meant to have? And, more importantly, what led to their downfall? Why was an event of epic proportions necessary to erase this civilization from existence? Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, and share this video. This is an incredibly fascinating topic. Traditional science tells us that human history began primitively, evolving slowly over millennia. But there is evidence that challenges this narrative. Impossible monuments, maps of vanished lands, records of beings that were not entirely human. All of this points to a buried truth. A truth so impactful that, if revealed, it would completely change the way we see our past and our future. Before we continue, if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe now, like this video, and leave a comment. We want to know what you think about this mystery and how you believe it will unfold. Join us on this journey of incredible revelations. What really existed before the flood? Why was this knowledge eradicated? And most importantly, could this history be on the verge of repeating itself? What is hidden between the lines may be far more disturbing than we ever imagined. The lost era. What they don't want you to know. Imagine a world completely different from what we know. Not the past we were taught in history books, but a time when colossal beings walked among men. A time when the sky was painted with colors that no longer exist, and the earth pulsed with an energy we can now only imagine. This world was not primitive. It was advanced, mysterious, and forbidden. But why does no one talk about it? Why are all that remain just distorted fragments, scattered among ancient texts and forgotten legends? Something incredibly powerful was erased from humanity's memory, something they don't want you to uncover. The scriptures mention an era when the sons of the gods came to earth and took the daughters of men as their own. Was this just a myth? Or a direct reference to a hybrid civilization that defied the natural order? The Bible speaks of the Nephilim, giant, powerful beings of a lineage that was never meant to exist. But what exactly were they? Just an extinct race, or something far more terrifying? Something that may have completely altered the trajectory of humanity before the Great Flood? If these beings existed, it means something much deeper was happening. Something forbidden. Something so dangerous that it had to be erased. Think about this. How did ancient civilizations manage to build such perfect monuments that even modern engineering struggles to replicate? Egypt, Mesopotamia, the submerged cities beneath the ocean. They all seem to be fragments of a forgotten time. Could it be that these people inherited knowledge from a previous era? The answer may lie in ancient texts that speak of secret wisdom, a science that was never meant to be shared. A technology that enabled feats beyond all logical explanation. If this is true, then the history of the world is far more complex than we were ever taught. There are accounts of kings who lived for hundreds of years, as if they had access to something that made them immortal. Before the flood, humans lived much longer than they do today. But why? What changed? Was humanity somehow weakened after this event? If there was once knowledge that prolonged life, where did it go? And more importantly, why was this secret buried with time? The truth may be hidden in texts like the Book of Enoch, which describes fallen angels teaching mankind the arts of war, alchemy, and forbidden magic. And then, the most intriguing question of all arises. Did this lost civilization reach a point where its power became a threat to something much greater? Something that demanded intervention? The stories speak of divine judgment, of an event that changed everything. But if we look beyond the symbolism, we find real evidence of massive destruction. Scientists talk about mysterious craters, unexplained extinctions, and geological records indicating that something catastrophic happened in the distant past. The temples and pyramids that still stand today seem to echo ancient knowledge. But what exactly were they trying to preserve? What were they trying to tell us? Every carved stone, every symbol etched into the walls, could be a fragment of a story that we were never meant to know. A story that, if uncovered, would completely change how we see the past, and more than that, how we perceive our own future. If this civilization truly existed, then where are its cities? Where are its machines? What happened to its culture and records? Were they deliberately destroyed? Or could there still be hidden traces, waiting to be found? Some researchers believe the answer lies beneath our very feet, buried under layers of earth and oblivion. But what if part of this knowledge was never really lost? What if a few individuals preserved these secrets and passed them down through the ages? Some ancient societies speak of the chosen ones, those who received the forbidden knowledge and hid it until the right moment. But what exactly was preserved? Who truly holds this secret? Is it possible that even today, there are those who know the truth about what happened before the flood? And more importantly, what would happen if that truth were revealed? The past may not just be a dead history. It may be a warning, a message that what happened before could happen again. But there's something even more unsettling about all of this. Something that few dare to ask. Something that takes this story to an entirely new level. But before we uncover that, we need to understand one essential detail. The world before the flood wasn't just advanced. It held a secret so powerful that it was considered a threat. And this secret is directly connected to something modern science is just beginning to perceive, but still cannot explain. And that is exactly what we are about to unravel now. The lost technology of the giants. Secrets before the destruction. The evidence is everywhere, yet few dare to connect the dots. There are accounts of civilizations that built impossible monuments, structures that defy modern comprehension. But how? How did supposedly primitive people move multi-ton blocks, fit stones with microscopic precision, and develop mathematical and astronomical systems so advanced? The answer may lie in the hands of those who lived before the flood. The ancient giants, the Nephilim, possessed something beyond physical strength. Something that was never meant to be within humanity's reach. A forbidden knowledge. There are records of maps that should not exist, drawn centuries before any known oceanic navigation was possible. Maps depicting continents yet to be discovered, coastlines charted with a precision that could only be achieved using modern technology. Where did this knowledge come from? Was it taught by beings from beyond? Or was it a legacy of a world that was erased from history by the Great Cataclysm? Whatever the case, one thing is certain. The answers are hidden in the very places we are taught to ignore. Deep within caves and forgotten ruins, there are inscriptions depicting enormous beings endowed with intelligence and abilities that traditional archaeology cannot explain. These records speak of engineering, metal manipulation, and advanced technologies that would only be recreated millennia later. What happened to this science? Why did it disappear? Or worse, was it deliberately erased? The flood may have been more than just a natural event. It may have been a reset. But who or what needed to be wiped off the map? And what if this lost technology never truly vanished? Some ancient tribes speak of sacred artifacts, objects imbued with a power that no one fully understands. Relics that emit energy, that alter the environment around them. Take the Ark of the Covenant, for example, described as a wooden chest covered in gold, supposedly emitting a force so powerful that no one could touch it without being struck down. Was it merely a religious object, or a remnant of this forgotten science? The idea that the past held technological secrets might seem absurd to some, but what if we look at the megalithic structures? Temples built with precise angles, aligned with constellations that would only be studied centuries later. Stones so massive that even with modern resources, cutting and transporting them would be nearly impossible. Did these so-called primitive civilizations develop methods that surpass even today's technology? Or did they receive help from something or someone? Ancient scriptures speak of living machines, stone guardians, and gateways between worlds. Were these just symbolic descriptions, or literal accounts of a technology beyond our understanding? Think about it. If thousands of years ago, Someone had tried to describe an airplane to a people who only knew horses and carts. How would they interpret it? Could it be that what we call mythology is actually a distorted memory of a much more advanced reality? Now, imagine that this technology wasn't simply lost, but hidden. That there are people, groups, and societies that know exactly where to find these secrets and have kept them protected to this day. What if there is an invisible thread connecting the giants of the past, the unexplained monuments, and the mysteries we have yet to solve? With each new archaeological discovery, more questions arise than answers. What truly existed before the flood? What was buried along with it? But there is something even more terrifying. If this civilization was destroyed, then what exactly did it do to deserve such a fate? If this technology was so powerful, why was it considered a threat? What was discovered that was never meant to be found? The answer may be much closer than we think. And now, before we reach the climax of this story, there is one final detail that changes everything. Something that the scriptures have warned about for millennia. A secret that not only explains the past, but could define our future. The great divine reset. The truth about the flood and the end of that world. And then, the inevitable moment arrived. Something was out of control. The earth was corrupted. Natural laws had been broken, and humanity was no longer the same. Giants ruled the world. Forbidden knowledge had fallen into the wrong hands, and even the heavens bore witness to an unprecedented degradation. Whatever happened in those days was massive enough to demand a definitive response. But who gave that response? Who decided that world had to be erased? And, most importantly, why? The scriptures speak of a flood, an event that swept everything from the face of the earth. But this was not just a passing storm, it was a reset. A forced restart. The Book of Enoch mentions that the Watchers themselves, those who taught men to manipulate forces they were never meant to control, were imprisoned. That their hybrid offspring, the Nephilim, were exterminated. It was the end of an era and the beginning of something new. But what exactly led to this judgment? What made that civilization so dangerous? Look at history. Every time humanity gets too close to a deep and forbidden knowledge, something happens. Something that prevents us from advancing too quickly. The flood may have been the first major event of this kind, a barrier imposed to keep us within certain limits. But this raises a terrifying question. Who imposes these limits? Who decides what can or cannot be discovered? And is the same pattern repeating today? Science confirms that thousands of years ago, a cataclysmic event did indeed alter the geography of the planet. Sea levels rose, cities were destroyed, lands were swallowed. Some cultures describe it as divine punishment. Others, as a war between forces battling for the fate of humanity. But if this event happened to erase something, what exactly needed to be wiped out? Was it a war against the giants? Against the hybrids? Or against a humanity that dared to go too far? And there is something even more unsettling. Was the flood truly definitive, or was it just a warning? History seems to follow a cycle. Civilizations rise, reach their peak, challenge the limits, and then disappear. As if there is always an invisible line, and when it is crossed, judgment inevitably follows. Are we approaching that line again? Are we retracing the steps of that forgotten civilization? The world before the flood was lost, but its secrets were not entirely destroyed. Some were buried, waiting for the right moment to be rediscovered. But who is searching for these secrets today? Who is on the verge of uncovering answers that could change everything we know about the past and the future? If history truly repeats itself, then another reset may be waiting for us. The question is not if it will come. The question is, when? And now that you know this forbidden story, what really happened before the flood? Why did such an advanced world have to be erased from existence? If all of this were just a myth, why do so many civilizations, separated by oceans and millennia, tell versions of the same narrative? Something doesn't fit in the history we've been taught. There is a pattern, a cycle that repeats. And the most terrifying realization is that this cycle may be about to close once again. The signs are everywhere. Unprecedented technological advancements, a humanity increasingly obsessed with power, a reckless race toward something we may not be meant to reach. Are we repeating the mistakes of the past? Are we crossing the same forbidden line that led to that civilization's downfall? Was the flood just an isolated event, or a warning for all generations? Now, the question remains, if this story is repeating itself, will we share the same fate? Or is there still time to understand what really happened and prevent history from repeating? The ancients tried to warn us. The records are scattered. But are we willing to listen? And you? What do you think really happened before the flood? Do you believe this lost civilization was erased for challenging something far greater? Or could part of this knowledge still be among us, waiting to be rediscovered? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you want to keep uncovering these hidden mysteries, make sure to subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, and share this video. There is still much more to be revealed, and what comes next may be even more disturbing than everything we've discussed so far.